A ferocious storm ripped through the skies above Bangkok. Lightning tore jagged paths across the inky canvas, illuminating the deluge. Incoming aircraft, buffeted by the violent winds, were forced to abandon their approaches, either diverting to holding patterns or executing desperate go-arounds. Yet, defying the chaos, one colossal machine pressed on. A Boeing 747, bearing the insignia of Qantas Airways, sliced through the tempest. It descended, a massive shadow against the turbulent sky, its landing gear extended, a silent prayer of metal and hydraulics. The giant jet touched down, a shudder vibrating through its immense frame. Pilots immediately engaged the braking systems, the reverse thrusters roaring in a desperate attempt to shed speed. But the aircraft refused to yield. The runway, a rapidly shrinking ribbon of concrete, rushed towards them. 410 souls aboard this metal behemoth felt the relentless forward momentum, a terrifying absence of deceleration. The end of the strip loomed, an unforgiving precipice. Disaster felt not just imminent, but inevitable. This journey began thousands of miles away in Sydney, Australia, on September 23, 1999. 391 passengers and 19 crew members boarded the Qantas Airways Boeing 747. Their destination? London. A multi-hour odyssey across continents. But the 747, for all its might, could not complete the entire journey without a crucial refueling stop. Bangkok was that planned intermission. The estimated flight time to the Thai capital was approximately 8.5 hours. Commanding this transatlantic leg were not 2, but 3 pilots. At the helm was 49-year-old Captain John Frith, a name synonymous with experience within Qantas. His career spanned decades, accumulating over 15,000 flight hours. Recently, he had ascended to the prestigious role of senior check and training captain, holding a pivotal management position in the airline's pilot training department. Yet, the demands of administration meant his actual flight hours had dwindled to a third of what a typical line captain would log. To his right sat the 36-year-old first officer. A pilot with nearly 9,000 hours meant his specific flight time on the Boeing 747-400 was 7 times greater than that of his commanding officer. He was the one designated to pilot the aircraft to Bangkok that day. In the jump seat, observing, was the relief first officer, a veteran with over 60,000 flight hours, approximately half of which were accumulated on the 747. Their resumes were impeccable, records of unwavering dedication and skill. Yet, the unfolding events would soon cast a profound shadow of doubt upon the preparation and collective judgment of every pilot in that cockpit. The aircraft itself was a 9-year-old Boeing 747-400, affectionately known as the Jumbo Jet, a name that perfectly captured its monumental scale and power. It was also revered as the Queen of the Skies, a testament to its pioneering double-deck design and its historic significance as the world's first wide-body airliner. In 1999, this was a cutting-edge machine, the largest passenger aircraft in operation. Qantas maintained a fleet of 22 such magnificent machines, each one replacing the less capacious, less fuel-efficient 747s of earlier generations. This particular jet boasted a state-of-the-art glass cockpit, a marvel of digital displays and integrated systems, a testament to modern aviation. The flight engineer's station, once a vital nerve center, had been rendered obsolete by the relentless march of automation. This technological evolution streamlined the core flight crew, reducing it from 3 highly specialized individuals to just 2. Yet, this efficiency brought its own set of challenges. The airline, at that time, still grappled with the optimal integration of a relief first officer, a mandatory requirement for such extended journeys. The delicate dance of crew changeovers, maintaining seamless situational awareness and ensuring consistent communication remained an unsolved puzzle. At precisely 16:47 local time, Qantas Flight 1, its engines already thrumming with contained power, executed its executive start and received final clearance for takeoff from air traffic control. The first officer, with practiced precision, advanced the throttles, unleashing the colossal thrust of 4 mighty Rolls-Royce engines. The Boeing 747, a leviathan of the skies, roared down the runway, lifting gracefully from Sydney, its course set firmly for Thailand. Sydney's skies were a canvas of pristine blue, offering an ideal departure. But thousands of miles to the north, over their destination, trouble was brewing. The monsoon season was in full, relentless swing, and immense, volatile storm cells were beginning to coalesce across the Thai landscape. The captain, acutely aware of the looming meteorological challenges, had prudently ordered an additional 90 minutes of fuel. A contingency, he believed, that might prove vital during their anticipated approach into Bangkok. For hours, the journey unfolded with an almost hypnotic calm. The Boeing 747 settled into its assigned cruising altitude, flight level 350, 35,000 feet or 10,600 meters, a silent sentinel traversing the vast expanse northwest over Indonesia and the South China Sea. Cabin crew moved quietly amongst the passengers, tending to their needs with practiced ease, while in the cockpit, the pilots meticulously reviewed the latest weather reports for their destination. The initial hours passed in an unremarkable rhythm, yet this deceptive tranquility was destined to be fleeting. The crew, at this point, remained entirely unaware of the true tempest awaiting them in Bangkok, a storm where the raging weather would prove to be but one insidious element in a far more complex and dangerous equation. As the moment for descent approached, the first officer brought his wife into the cockpit. She settled into the jump seat directly behind the captain, a silent presence that would remain for the duration of the flight. In those days, prior to the seismic shifts of 2001, such a visit was not an anomaly. It was not yet perceived as a breach of aviation security protocols. Approximately 1 hour before their anticipated touchdown, the duty first officer initiated the approach briefing. He relayed the latest conditions from Bangkok: heavy rain, punctuated by severe thunderstorms. This was, he noted, characteristic monsoon weather for the region at that time of year. While it undeniably amplified the crew's workload, demanding heightened vigilance and precision, the situation on the surface remained within the boundaries of routine operations. What the crew could not have known, however, was that 3 years prior, in 1996, Qantas had subtly altered certain 747 landing procedures specifically for wet weather conditions. These revisions, seemingly minor on paper, had inadvertently eroded critical margins of safety, a perilous truth that would soon become terrifyingly evident. At 22:15, the crew commenced their descent. Bangkok Air Traffic Control then issued a critical update. They were cleared for runway 21 left. The first officer had, until that moment, been meticulously preparing for an approach to the parallel runway, 21 right. A swift recalculation was necessary, demanding immediate mental agility. He quickly briefed his colleagues on the stark differences. The glide slope for 21 left was significantly steeper, requiring a more aggressive descent profile, and the runway itself noticeably narrower. This sudden shift, demanding a more precise and challenging approach onto a less forgiving surface, added another layer of profound complexity to an already demanding scenario. A challenging turn complicates speed control. A narrow runway strip reduces the options available for a safe landing during intermittent crosswinds. Yet, even these conditions were not considered extraordinary. The pilots noted they would need to roll to the very end of the runway to clear it via the final taxiway, meaning aggressive braking would be unnecessary. Confidently, the captain selected Auto Brake Mode 2. The aircraft's auto brake system offers 5 distinct settings, modes 1 through 4, and a maximum setting. The choice of Mode 2 underscored the crew's conviction that this landing would be a routine affair, a standard procedure unfolding as planned. Minutes later, however, air traffic control delivered an update. Massive rain was falling. Water on the runway dramatically increases the required landing distance. Without hesitation, the captain adjusted, switching the auto brake to Mode 3. On a dry surface, the wheel brakes are the most potent stopping force. But on a wet runway, at higher speeds, the primary role shifts. Spoilers, the aircraft's air brakes, and the engine's reverse thrust become critical. The wheel brakes, under such conditions, grow less effective, susceptible to the treacherous phenomenon of aquaplaning. Air traffic control reported visibility at 4 kilometers, a figure technically within the company's operational limits for co-pilots. But the area was experiencing torrential downpours, storms capable of instantly reducing visibility to 0. The captain observed a storm cell directly over the airport on the weather radar. These thunderstorms displayed sharp, defined boundaries. In some areas, the sky remained almost clear, while others were engulfed in a deluge. The critical question hung in the air. Would their approach on the glide slope coincide precisely with this volatile storm cell passing over the runway? The crew meticulously completed their pre-landing checklist. Their plan? To land with flaps extended to 25 degrees, maintaining an approach speed of 154 knots or 268 kilometers per hour. Earlier procedures had recommended a 30-degree flap setting for landing. Qantas, the airline, had since altered this protocol, reducing the flap extension to 25 degrees. This change was implemented to mitigate noise and conserve fuel, a seemingly minor adjustment with a significant consequence. It necessitated a slightly higher approach speed than previously calculated. Instructions regarding reverse thrust had also evolved. Historically, full reverse thrust was the recommended practice on wet runways. But by 1996, the directive had shifted, prescribing the use of low reverse thrust. These seemingly minor procedural adjustments, made with the best of intentions, would echo through the airline's future, impacting operations dramatically in just 3 years. Ahead of Qantas Flight 1 were 2 other aircraft, another Qantas 747, Flight 15, and a Thai Airways Airbus A330. The pilots listened as air traffic control relayed information to the Thai crew. Heavy rain and 5 kilometers of visibility. They could see the storm, a towering mass of dark clouds directly before them. For the tropical climate, such formations were a familiar sight. And while this typically heralded turbulence and unpredictable wind shear, the pilots remained focused, their senses attuned to the subtle shifts in the air and the unfolding drama of the weather. The routine, they knew, could vanish in an instant, replaced by the raw power of the storm. Every decision, every calculation now carried a weight far beyond the ordinary. A subtle unease had begun to ripple through the cockpit, an almost imperceptible tension that grew with each passing mile. What started as a series of minor missteps, however, was now compounding, each error laying the ground. The crew initiated their final approach, but the second pilot found it increasingly difficult to bleed off the aircraft's speed, to bring it down to the crucial landing velocity. The captain's voice, sharp with concern, cut through the cockpit repeatedly, urging him to slow down. The second pilot responded, deploying the spoilers, a desperate attempt to create drag, yet the airspeed remained stubbornly high. Still, for now, it hovered just within the acceptable limits, allowing the approach to continue. At this critical juncture, the relief pilot, occupying the jump seat, was listening to a seemingly innocuous conversation. Ground engineer Kant was reporting from Bangkok, detailing heavy rainfall. A vital piece of information, yet the relief pilot chose not to relay it, unwilling to distract the flight crew during what he perceived as a period of intense workload. Unaware of the impending danger, the aircraft, still under autopilot control, captured the instrument landing system signal and began its automated descent along the vertical glide path. What the crew did not know was that Cathay Pacific Flight 15, flying just ahead of them, had only moments ago executed a go-around, abandoning its landing at a mere 250 feet. The rain had been so dense, so utterly blinding, that their pilots had lost sight of the runway lights entirely. But these pilots remained oblivious, their radio frequencies still tuned to approach control, not yet switched to the tower. The landing gear extended, locking into place with a reassuring thud. The second pilot then disconnected the autopilot and auto-throttle, taking manual control of the colossal machine. The tower controller granted landing clearance, adding a seemingly comforting detail. A Thai aircraft, a Boeing 747, had just reported good braking action. This news, a sliver of false reassurance, momentarily calmed the pilots. But the information was profoundly, dangerously incorrect. The Boeing 747 was now in its full landing configuration, gear down, spoilers armed, flaps set to 25 degrees. The pilots still planned to use only minimal reverse thrust after touchdown, a standard procedure. As they drew closer to the runway, the second pilot noticed the aircraft's persistent reluctance to slow. He fought to maintain 154 knots, but the effort was futile. The captain, observing the gradual, though insufficient, decrease in speed, dismissed the concern. Then, without warning, the Boeing plunged into a torrential downpour. The second pilot's voice, strained, requested maximum speed for the windshield wipers. In his thousands of hours of flight, he had never witnessed rain of such ferocious intensity. The aircraft was now significantly faster than its calculated approach speed and noticeably above the glide slope. The deafening roar of rain hammering against the windshield became an impenetrable wall of sound. As the plane entered its flare, it began to whistle, soaring just above the runway, creating an almost surreal air cushion, refusing to settle onto the asphalt. The runway lights blurred into an indistinct glow beneath them. Realizing they were overshooting the crucial touchdown zone, the captain's hand moved decisively, switching the auto-brake to mode 4, a desperate measure. In that critical instant, he lost. A blinding sheet of warts flying blind, stripped of all visual cues, every reference point vanishing in the deluge. The precise distance remaining, the critical margin between safety and disaster, became an agonizing unknown. In the cockpit, the first officer, reacting instinctively, pushed the throttles forward, engaging go-around power. The immense inertia of the colossal aircraft, however, defied the sudden surge of thrust. It continued its relentless descent, a multi-ton behemoth inexorably drawn towards the soaked asphalt below. The landing gear touched down, a shudder vibrating through the fuselage. At that precise moment, the captain made a snap decision, a desperate gamble. He saw the contact, the wheels meeting the runway, and violently pulled the throttles back to idle. The go-around was off. They were staying on the ground. But in the chaos of that split second, no words were exchanged. The crew remained unaware of this abrupt, critical change in plan. Then, a fatal oversight. A single, devastating error that would ripple through the next harrowing seconds. As the captain wrestled with the thrust levers, his hand bypassed engine number 1. It remained, stubbornly, defiantly, in go-around power. With one engine still roaring at takeoff thrust, the aircraft's intricate automated systems locked down. The spoilers, Those crucial aerodynamic brakes designed to dump lift and enhance wheel braking refused to deploy. They remained flush with the wing, inert. Confusion seized the first officer. Who was flying the plane? Were they going around, or were they committed to the landing? The conflicting signals, the roaring engine, the lack of communication created a paralyzing uncertainty. Despite the ambiguity, he began to apply the brakes. It was only then, noticing the forward thrust lever for engine 1, that he instinctively pulled it back to idle. A beat later, the spoilers finally automatically extended. But precious seconds had been squandered, most so far too deep into the runway. The asphalt, slick with standing water, offered little purchase. The auto-braking system, another layer of defense, had disengaged. A critical design feature, often overlooked in the heat of the moment, dictated that auto brakes deactivate if even a single engine is not at idle. No one on the flight deck registered this silent, terrifying failure. For several agonizing seconds, the wheel brakes, though engaged, were effectively useless. Only the drag from the belatedly deployed spoilers offered any discernible deceleration. The first officer, a cold dread washing over him, finally understood the terrifying truth. The aircraft was not slowing. He stomped on the brake pedals with all his might, but it was too late. Aquaplaning had begun. The sheer volume of water on the runway rendered the brakes a mere third as effective as they would have been on dry pavement. In the maelstrom of stress, a fundamental safety procedure was forgotten. The pilots neglected to activate even minimal reverse thrust. Had they engaged full reverse thrust at that critical juncture, a slim chance of salvation might have emerged from the chaos. The end of the runway, a stark line of demarcation between safety and the unknown, rushed towards them with terrifying speed. The aircraft, an unstoppable force, refused to yield. At a staggering 90 knots, or 166 kilometers per hour, the Boeing 747 burst through the perimeter, overrunning the runway. The impact was immediate, violent. The aircraft sheared off the ILS localizer antenna, a critical navigational aid. Inside the cabin, a terrifying symphony of destruction began. Overhead panels tore free and crashed to the floor. Luggage compartments burst open, spilling their contents. The colossal jet, now a runaway projectile, skidded another 100 meters through churned earth and mud before finally coming to an abrupt, jarring halt, its nose resting precariously on the airport's perimeter road. The captain's voice, strained but resolute, cut through the sudden silence. "Evacuate! Evacuate!" Miraculously, all 410 souls on board survived. Only 38 sustained minor injuries, a testament to sheer fortune and the aircraft's robust construction. Qantas, the airline, had long cultivated a reputation as one of the safest carriers in the world. Since the dawn of the jet age, they had never written off a single aircraft. The subsequent investigation by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau would painstakingly unravel the chain of events, revealing how a series of human errors, compounded by the unforgiving elements, could bring even the most meticulously maintained machine to the very brink of catastrophe. It was a stark reminder that even with the most advanced technology and the most rigorous training, the human element remains the most unpredictable and often the most vulnerable link in the chain of flight. The investigation into transport safety laid bare a critical misjudgment. The flight crew had failed to adequately account for the profound impact of water on braking distance. They neglected to select the optimal configuration for a short, wet runway, specifically flaps set to 30 degrees and full reverse thrust. Yet the inquiry revealed this was no mere isolated oversight by the pilots. The combination of flaps set to 25 degrees and minimal reverse thrust was, astonishingly, standard operating procedure for the airline itself. Compounding this foundational flaw were several other critical factors: an unstabilized approach, excessive airspeed, an overshoot of the touchdown zone, and a profound breakdown in crew resource management. The commander's sudden intervention, an unexpected grab for the engine controls without warning, plunged the cockpit into a critical moment of confusion. This split-second disorientation cost the crew precious seconds, vital time that could have been the difference between disaster and a controlled stop. Initially, the damage inflicted upon the aircraft was so severe it was slated for permanent decommissioning. Yet, Qantas Airlines, fiercely protective of its pristine record of never having lost an aircraft, made an audacious decision. Against all odds and at an astronomical cost, the airline poured $100 million into restoring the damaged airliner. The staggering sum was a testament to the airline's unwavering commitment to its unblemished safety record. The aircraft eventually returned to active service, flying for another 13 years until 2013. Beyond the monumental repair, Qantas Airlines also extended a gesture of goodwill, compensating every passenger on Flight 0.01 with $1,000 each. By the close of 2000, the carrier had implemented sweeping changes across its flight training protocols, refined its crew resource management strategies, and overhauled numerous other critical aspects of its pilot operational technology. The incident became a stark lesson, etched into the very fabric of their procedures, a constant reminder of how a chain of seemingly minor deviations can converge into a profound challenge to safety.